Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of the Slow Paced Knitting Space. My name is Michelle Matthews, and I'm coming to you from Northern Alberta, Canada. Today is March 19th, 2021, and this is a knitting podcast, so I'm going to be talking a lot about what I've been knitting lately, a little bit about designing, and quite a bit about sock madness, which will come up. But before I talk about any of that, I just wanted to say that I'm changing how I'm doing the the notes on screen. I want to make them easier to read. So they will have a bolder black background and a more typey sort of font instead of something as handwritten. So now onto the knitting. My first FO is my first finished object is my Mock Sadness socks, which were one of the warm-up patterns, one of the 4 warm-up patterns for Sock Madness this year. They're by Helle Slente, and so I figured out how to make my phone show it really nicely. So I want to show off this cable, and it's like a mock braid all the way down, and I modified these to, the braid ended about here, and I added 2 more crossovers because I didn't like how it looked ending right here on the middle of my foot, so I wanted to keep going and then go down. So this is the new one. Oh, this one shows the cable way better actually. These 2 socks are from the exact same ball of yarn, but they look like they're different dye lots. For whatever reason, it just really, here, let me just get them nicely, lightened up for the second sock, even though they're the same yarn. So these are the ones also with the bumpy picot edging, which is a lot of fun, and I like this so much that I'm putting into a different project that I'm working on. Oh, and it's hard to tell, but these socks, the cable that goes on them is mirrored, so one goes this way and the other one mirrors it. Oh, and I just wanted to mention something else about them. I really like these. These fit me really well, and I like how the pooling turned out. The pooling is when a variegated yarn, so a multicolored yarn that's not meant to stripe, the colors kind of line up in fun ways. That's called pooling. And I really like this one. I think it's kind of fun. I didn't know I was going to do that, and I didn't notice until the first sock was done. So yeah, I really like that. So that's Mock Sadness. It's probably going to be available in June or July, and this was really fun. I knit, the last time I podcasted, I just had the cuff, and then I finished like the flap and heel turn, and then just this week I knit the rest of the foot in 2 days, which is quite fast for me normally. So my next thing, that's the only thing I finished since the last video, but I have started a few things. And the first one I started, I call it Grumpy Bum, but the pattern is actually called Monster Longies by Kristine Jorskogen, and this is all I have so far is the waistband. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it over and make that picot edge waistband, and I'm going to put an elastic waistband in there so that it's more stretchy. And this is going to be for my baby. I don't have a picture, but I'll put one in. And these are the cutest little things. They are like these pants that make a little face on the bum. And how it works is you knit all the stripy parts, and then you duplicate stitch on the eyes and the teeth, I think, and whatever else. I've seen people with tongues and like eyes with eyelashes, and it's just super cute. So I'm going to make them into shorts for my my daughter, who's almost 1, and she's walking and also crawling. And I've wanted to make a pair of these for my kids, for my baby, for like 5 years since I had the first one. And he's almost 6, and this is kind of my last chance if I want to, as far as I know, if I want to make one of these for my kids. So yeah, I'm gonna work on that. So I'm going to use this. This is probably a red heart yarn or something similar acrylic from Walmart or Michael's. This is yarn that I got last year, I think, or the year before. My mom's friend's mom died, and she had a ton of yarn. And so we got like 7 or 8 enormous tubs full of yarn. And so I picked out stuff I liked. My husband, who knits 8-foot scarves, picked out stuff he likes. And we passed it around to my friends, who all took stuff they like. And my in-laws, my sisters-in-law, took stuff they like. And I'm not actually sure where the rest of it is right now, but you know, it's around. And I think the rest was whatever was left from what we didn't like or didn't want was going to go to people who knit for charity or something. So there was so much. So many people have gotten good out of this yarn. And so these are going to be made with this and striped with this one and this one. And it is going to be fantastic, I think. Very, very girly, but also really cute and just pop. The color's going to pop. I'm so excited for that. And what I'm just waiting for that elastic to come in, because I asked my aunt who sews if she had some and if she could mail me some. So it's still coming. It might be my mailbox now, but I don't know. And now, the socks you've all been waiting for. The Sock Madness socks. So the pattern dropped. No, let me rewind. They let out the specs for the pattern, what we're going to need for it, 48 hours before they released it. Almost exactly. You have 0 to 48 hours from when the specs come out to when they will send everyone the pattern. And they sent it at 2:15 a.m. or something like that. And so I got it in the morning when I woke up. And this pattern is called Senbonzakura by Natalia Vasilieva. And boy, it is so nice. I'm just going to stick it on a sock blocker so you can see. There. So this pattern, I thought when I first looked at it that it had cables, but it actually doesn't. So first impression view, and now up close. It has little smocking here, and here too, these flowers are made out of smocking. And what that is you put those stitches on a cable needle and wrap your yarn around it, and then put them back on your needle and knit them. And I had never done that before. There's my camera. I had never done that before, and it is not hard. I thought it might be. I was really intimidated by all these flowers all over the socks, but it was actually not a problem. It was no harder than cabling is, actually. And then each flower has these 2 little beads in it, and the requirement, the sock to qualify for being on a team has minimum requirements, and the requirement was to bead at least 6 of them. But at first it was a specific 6, and so I decided I'm just going to bead all of them, and then I'll make sure I get the right ones that way. But they changed it to just any 6. And this pattern, boy, it's just so pretty. This yarn that I'm using is called Tough Love Sock by SweetGeorgia. This is the purple that I used in my On the Spice Market shawl that I showed in 2 other videos, which you can see, I think it's my first one and my third one. And I've never actually used this yarn for socks before, or rather I've never finished I still haven't. I've never finished socks in this yarn before. But it's really nice. This pattern pulls in a little bit, but it's mostly ribbing, so it is really forgiving for fit. And something interesting about it, there, is this heel. This is the gusset for the sock, and normally a sock has the gusset on the sides, and I'll show you that in a second. I just want to show you this. It's really pretty. It keeps doing the smocking technique, but it closes up the yarn overs so that there's no holes. And I'm used to doing a gusset on the side. So socks often have this extra space here on each side of the sock, and that's just to fit over the arch of your foot properly. And this one has it, Senbonzakura has it on the back, and what that does is it keeps the pattern going. It doesn't interrupt the flowers or the ribbing or the chain going there. So these were released, the pattern was released the first Saturday of March. Anyway, we have until 2 whatever a.m. this Saturday, tomorrow, to finish it. And I'm not going to finish it by then, which has always been my plan, has been to not finish it, because I wanted to be a cheerleader. So, so I'm going to talk about that in a second. First, I want to talk about these socks a little bit more. I have knit 2 socks to the same point, and as per the qualifying requirements, they're mirrored. So on this one, it goes flower, 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 but on the other sock where it has ribbing, it will have a flower, and where there's flower, there's ribbing. So it's flower, flower, flower here, and on the other one it's flower, 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 flower there. And so they're mirrored, which is probably my favorite way of doing socks that are matching but different. A lot of patterns, like a color work pattern where they have a background color and the contrast color, and a lot of people like to switch them up for the second one, and my husband is definitely that kind of person. He loves to switch it up. He likes his socks being fun and different, and that's a lot of fun to knit for, actually. But I like my socks to match, and so sometimes I'm torn. It's like, which one do I want to be the main color, and which one do I want to be a contrasting color? Because I'm not going to switch it, and they both look nice. But this was mirrored, which is a great way to have matching but not quite the same socks. So the qualifying rules to get on a team were to knit a certain amount in the leg and a certain amount in the foot. And I actually, to qualify, would need to knit 24 more rounds. That's about this much on the foot. And then the toe is another 24 rounds, and that would be way, way too big for me. If the toe is 24 rounds, I'm basically almost ready to start the toe now. So I wanted to save them so when I can do that. I just want to talk about beading for a second. So you can see these beads here. There's multiple ways to put beads on. If you YouTube put beads on your knitting, there's so many ways. One of my favorite that I normally do is to use a very, very small crochet hook that you stick through the hole of the bead and hook onto the loop of your knitting, and then pull the loop through the hole in the bead. But of course I couldn't find my crochet hook right now. So what I've been using is these, which are for flossing when you have braces, which I had them before I had braces because I had them for beading my knitting. So what you do, if you know, you can pull it loose, there. So you have this thing, and then you loop your knitting, the loop of your knitting onto there, and then you hold it tight and pull it up through the bead, and the loop will pull through the bead. Another way to do it is to use a different kind of floss for braces where it has a stiff end and a loose end. It's almost like you could thread it through your loop of your knitting, very much the same way as that. And also, I have learned through the chat threads, the chat on Ravelry about this, is that there's such a thing as like some kind of beading hook. And I want to look into that more. Maybe I can show you for the next one, the next time I bead a sock. Okay, so put those away. And my next new project that I cast on was my socks, Max Elijah Benjamin, that will be to raise money for the children's Stollery in Edmonton. So this is knit out of Polka Dot Creek, one of the sock sets, and I've cast on 64 stitches on 2.25 needles, and I've knit the cuff so far. There. 2x2 rib. It's kind of what I was gonna say it's one of my favorites, but how many kinds of ribs are there, right? But it's so basic. I kind of default to this, and if I want something a little more fancy, I'll do 1x1 twisted rib, and those are my two main ribs that I do for socks. And I started the color work, but I forgot that I was going to go up a needle size for that, so I need to pull it out and go up needle size. And thankfully it's only 2 rows, so it's not much to pull back. So yeah. Oh yeah. And next time I show those, I'm going to show this really cool little tool I got called a knitting thimble, and it's a ring that goes on and it holds your yarn steady for you when you're knitting so that you can do color work much smoother. And I love it. I used it for something else, for one of the baby things that I made for my brother. Yeah. Okay. Next, I want to talk about some yarn that I bought. This is Knit Picks Swish DK in Dove Heather. And I got this from someone on Ravelry. I was searching for it specifically, so I looked through people's stash that they were willing to sell or trade. And I got this from a lady in Calgary because I want to make a baby gift for one of my friends with it. So I'm going to use Swish DK in Dove Heather and in Jade, which I wanted to get some more. It looks like it's been discontinued in that color. But I'm going to make a little baby sweater with these. Yeah. Sometimes when I watch knitting podcasts and they have, every week they're showing the yarn they got, there's this part of me that's like, I wish I could buy nice new yarn every week. And you try to be happy for them and not a little bit jealous. And here I am on week 4, and I've had something to show every week, and I'm going to have something to show next time too, because I bought beads. And I didn't think that I bought stuff that often, but I'm kind of being forced to look at it and see how regularly I bring more stuff into my stash. And I guess I have to admit it, 2 of them were giveaways, so there is that. But yeah, next time I'm going to have quite a few new beads to show, because I was looking at the specifications for the upcoming Sock Madness socks, and like 3 patterns or more use beads in them, and not just 30 beads like this one did. One of them calls for 250 beads. Another one calls for 100 and some beads. And one of the bonus patterns, which we'll see if I even get, but the bonus pattern has almost 1,000 beads, and I don't have that many beads. So I bought some from, I think it's ibeadcanada.com. Anyway, it's a wholesale beading website, and their prices were very affordable and their shipping was very affordable. So if you live in Canada and you want to buy some beads, I'm going to put the link in the description box, and that might be a really reasonable place to look. I think I made my purchase on the weekend, and it's supposed to come next Wednesday, so it's not super fast shipping, but I'm not going to be late, even if the pattern drops almost immediately for the next pattern, which it won't. But even if it did, I wouldn't be behind. All right. Does anybody else have to stop filming halfway and put it on their computer because they don't have enough room on their phone? Just me? Hopefully not. So, that's the kids playing downstairs. I only have a little bit more. I just want to talk about Sock Madness a little bit. Before I said that there's going to be like 10 teams of 40 and ever competes, and I grossly undercounted how many people are in this. And I should have known better, but there's normally like between 25 and 30 teams of about 40 people. And this year is going to be even more than that, because on Ravelry you can see how many people are making socks with this pattern. And this pattern has over 1,800 projects. Over 1,800 people are knitting it, and over 1,600 have finished it. So there's going to be 1,600 people at least on teams. And so if the teams are all about 40, then there's going to be quite a few teams. But I qualified yesterday to be on the cheerleader team. And there's special rules in general, but there's special rules to qualify to be on the cheerleader team, which is you have to knit a full sock or 2 socks past the heels. And they have a rule that says you're not allowed to modify the pattern and then ask to be a cheerleader. So if I want to be a cheerleader, I have to knit it the exact same as a competitor and then request to be a cheerleader. So I didn't want to knit a sock that's too big for me, so I knit 2 socks past the heels and well into the foot, and then sent my email to be a cheerleader. And now that I am, now I can finish it however I like. And I'm planning on finishing it after the competition anyway. So, yeah. And so, once they hit the cutoff, the point where everyone has had 2 weeks to the exact minute that the pattern was sent out, once they hit the cutoff, then they're going to take all the people who finished and put them onto teams, which takes a couple of days, I think, because it's just, there's 1,600 people, there's so many people. And then, once they're ready, they will make the team threads on the group on Ravelry, and then they will put out the specs, and then for the next pattern, for round 1. And then they will have 48 hours again from when they release what you're going to need. That's what the specs are, the specifications of what you need for the pattern. They release that, and within 48 hours they will email you the pattern. And it has been immediately in the past, and it has been all the way up to the 48-hour mark. So you really have no idea. And that's part of the madness, is not knowing when you're going to get the pattern and refreshing your email 5 times every hour. And of course the sock madness, the madness is knitting the socks and the craziness of the socks, but waiting is its own kind of special madness that is part of the competition. And so as an official cheerleader, I will get the patterns as well, and I knit them. I don't have to knit them to the minimum requirements, the way the people on teams do. The ones on teams knit them to the minimum requirements, and the first however many on each team to finish goes to the next round, and they do that until there's 1 or 2 people from each round. And the cheerleaders just knit along on the sidelines, cheering everyone on and knitting as well, and not competing. And I just have decided that I just don't need that stress of competing, because it's not good for me and my family, because then I don't clean, I don't cook, I don't do anything with the kids. We're homeschooling, so I would probably put off school. I just obsess over it, and so I am not doing that. Also, I talked a few videos ago about the Socks from Stash group. For February, their monthly challenge was to knit from your oldest yarn in your stash. And so I picked two of my oldest ones. I was doing ankle socks, and so I had to do 2 pairs of ankle socks to qualify for the challenge, because ankle socks are so much less work than full pair of socks. And so I started my Mock Sadness socks, and I did my Torg socks, and I did not finish them in February, so I didn't qualify, but I did since I just finished this, I got to post them for the yearly total, because they have their monthly challenge, and they also have a yearly total for how many socks were knit that year by members of that group. So I entered them in just recently, these two, and I just want to pause for a second to show off my Torg socks, because these are off to the tech editor. So this is the ankle sock version, but they are off to the tech editor to make sure my pattern is consistent and that the numbers add up. And then they will be test knit to make sure that it's really readable for people. And so if you are interested in test knitting some socks, let me know on Instagram or on Ravelry, because I would love to send this out for you to try. So yes, the socks from Stash for February were these ones, and then the socks from Stash challenge for March was to make a poll of a few patterns that you want to knit, and then people will vote on your poll, and you knit the one that got the most votes. And so luckily for me, the Sock Madness qualifying pattern, which was the Senbonzakura ones, that one qualified. That one got the most votes, and the next one to get the next most votes was my Max Elijah Benjamin socks. So, well on the way for that one. I'm for sure planning to finish Senbonzakura for March to put them in that group, and we'll see about the other ones. I don't usually knit more than 1 pair of socks in a month, but we'll see how it goes this month with Sock Madness. I'm also going to enter them in a knit along on Instagram, the Comforting Socks knit along, that's hosted by Little Bitty Delights and Hen Knits by Cam. I see their names on Instagram all the time, but now without my phone, part of me is second guessing if I'm remembering it correctly, but it will be in the notes correctly, whether I say it right or not. So yeah, I think that's everything I have today. Next episode we'll have more socks and more beads, and maybe that fancy bead thing I've been seeing on the chat threads. Yeah. So, I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who watches and to everyone who comments and sends me messages about my podcast videos. Thank you so much for watching. I make these because it's fun to talk about what I'm knitting, and it's fun to go on and on about the part of the knitting that I'm interested in. But it's really special when other people are interested in watching and listening and seeing what I've been working on. So thank you so much to everyone who watches. Yeah. Thank you, and bye for now.